Did you know, in the original Pokemon games, Lickitung could not learn the move Lick? Lickitung. Lick is a ghost-type move where, quote, the target is licked with a long tongue, causing damage. This may also leave the target with paralysis. What? Why would... What? Sasha! Yeah, see? She's fine. She's moving. All she wants. It's very little. So why would the move Lick... So why would the move Lick cause paralysis? There's gotta be a reason. There's always a reason. Lots of fire moves cause burn because hot. Poison moves poison because poison. Several electric moves cause paralysis because excess electricity causes muscles to seize up. Soak changes the target's type into water because they are so drenched and saturated in it that they might as well be. So what's the deal with Lick? You can't even learn it. Why am I holding you? Lickitung could learn it in later generations, just not originally. In a previous video, we looked into the move Glare, another paralysis-inducing move that only snake Pokemon can learn. And its reasoning, both for paralyzing and being a snake-exclusive move, is pretty solid. But Lick-induced paralysis? I mean, if I were randomly licked by my opponent, I'd probably flinch, if anything.
Is paralysis not just a flinch, but longer?
Aren't I the one who normally says dumb things? But no, this phenomenon is so iconic to Gen 1 Pokemon, we see it happening in the original anime intro. Haunter licks Charmander, and then Charmander gets the paralysis shivers. So why does Lick paralyze? This is a question that pops up in the fandom from time to time, and I always see the same answers.
It's gross and they don't know how to react.
For several turns though?
Hey, it's creepy and they're scared.
The move is ghost type, but
it's because ghost saliva is a viscous substance which oozes over every inch of skin, enveloping the body in a clammy embrace that feels like sinking into a slick and slimy quicksand. Each movement is like a struggle against the weight of the slime, which clings relentlessly, constricting limbs like a suffocating shroud. The air grows heavy with the nauseating scent of decay, and every breath becomes a battle against the oppressive grip of the sweet, sweet, slimy abyss, saturating itself deep within every single crevice.
Please get help. You're on the right track though. Look at the 4 Pokemon who can learn the move in the Gen 1 games. Only the Gengar line and Jynx. So the original Ghosts and Jynx, who is based on a particularly famous yokai, or Japanese folktale spirit. There are many Pokemon based on yokai, Lickitung included, but the difference between Lickitung's Akaname origins and Jynx's Yuki Onna is that the Akaname uses its long tongue to lick filthy things like bathrooms clean, and the Yuki Onna is a ghost woman who lures men who are passing by with her feminine charm, only to freeze them in their tracks. So not exactly using her tongue, but the freezing aspect is reflected in the paralysis. Though, Yuki Onna normally does it literally with ice, hence Jynx's ice typing. But in other versions of the story, she has a baby, and when you pick up this lost baby in the woods to help it, and help it find its mother, your legs become completely paralyzed. So, the Yuki Onna has an easier time approaching and killing you. Smoochum and Jynx are both very kissy Pokemon too. In fact, Jynx's signature move is Lovely Kiss, or Demon's Kiss in its original Japanese. The move puts you to sleep, which is also very fitting for a Yuki Onna Pokemon. And using your tongue during a particularly steamy makeout session is some advanced technique. Licking is inherently connected to kissing, is what I'm saying. But let's do everyone a favor and look away from Jynx for a moment. The tongues of Ghastly, Haunter, and Gengar are pretty important to their designs. It feels like they are always drawing attention to them, be it in-game when they come out of their Pokeball, or in the anime when they just stick them out every possible chance that they have. And like, just how many of their cards focus on them sticking their tongues out too? This odd tongue addiction is definitely linked to them being Japanese ghosts. It feels like at least a third of all yokai that you see are commonly depicted with their tongues sticking out. And there are several reasons for that. Many yokai are inherently mischievous, disruptive, and defiant. Often they make a mockery of something, and those are all things sticking your tongue out can show. Think of punks sticking their tongues out at authorities, but it's so much more than even that. It's also often a taunt, a "nya nya, you can't catch me," before hopping away with your yokai powers or phasing through a wall. Big tongues are also used in art and media to symbolize hunger, voraciousness, or insatiability, and that's a theme of many yokai as well. Think of the Futakuchi Onna, a mouth on the back of a woman's head that gorges on food. This is where the Akaname fits in too. It feeds on filth, and its tongue can reach deep into every dirty little hole. And just southwest of Japan is another East Island chain, the Philippines, where we find a similar looking spirit, the Dila, or Ondaduno. The main difference? Rather than slurping up yucky disgusting stuff in an outhouse, it stealthily sneaks its long tongue into your house through the floorboards and begins vampirically licking you, draining you of your life force. But why don't you flee? Seems like it'd be easy enough to escape a tongue that's just licking you. Well, because it's also essentially a sleep paralysis demon who only targets sick people. You might wake up, but you can't leave. You can't move because you're busy being licked and drained.
Nut.
Will you stop with that nut button?
No.
Okay, fine. The Gengar line pulls from various ghosts and spirits of the more Japanese, generic variety, but one is of particular note. Haunter is the Akaguchi, or Akashita. I mean, a giant ghost cloud thing with a huge mouth, massive tongue, and floating hands? Yeah, and remember, this whole line are living, or undead, clouds of poisonous gas, hence their poison typing, huge size, and teeny tiny weight. So take that ghost cloud and then apply some generic Japanese ghost traits. They were known as Fuyurei, and in general, whomever they haunted got sick, thus also explaining the line's poison typing again. When sick due to a haunting or otherwise, you often don't want to move much. And maybe you even start getting chills down your spine. You can feel a coldness in your bones just jolt out of nowhere, and it's...
Ah, you've just been licked by a ghost.
And I don't know about you, but when I get a shiver down my spine, I find it a bit difficult to move right away. I gotta take a couple seconds to breathe. The common answer of "it's creepy" does apply here as well. If you think or even know that a ghost or some other creep is just tasting you, you're gonna be squidged out. That's a common anime thing too. Using a tongue this way is anime or even just media shorthand for "I am creepy, and I wish to send shivers down your spine." When you think about it, the tongue is like such an intimate part of physiology. It's inside you and rarely seen. It's this moist flesh tentacle sitting on the roof of your mouth with this nearly unique ability to taste things. And it's just sitting there, cradled between a threatening digestive system and a cage of exposed bones. And these monsters are just wiggling it about. They want you inside of them. And not necessarily in a good way.
Nut.
Oh, and what did you mean by nearly unique ability to taste things?
Because there's also some specific kinds of taste buds on the other end. That's why you can feel but actually taste spicy food on the way out, too.
Oh, you.
Testicles, too. That's why menthol body wash specifically is miserable there, but is fine everywhere else. But yeah, I'm really glad it's not the full-on taste spectrum in either of those places, rather just very tiny specific snippets of it. and relatively weak at that. But anyway, think of the trope of some bad guy licking his sword. Can you don't? Think of the trope of some bad guy licking his sword after getting a good cut on the hero. It's intimidating. This guy is relishing in the violence. He loves the sight and smell and taste of blood and violence. So much so that he wants it inside of him. That's creepy. You get taken aback, your fear creeps in, you start having doubts about your ability to fight this guy, and that may be all it takes to slow you down or stop you in your tracks, maybe even seize up, even if for just a moment. The same applies to bad guys licking blood splattered on their face, and in a more monstrous environment, this might insinuate something even worse. This monster you're fighting doesn't just want to defeat you in combat or subdue you, no. It wants to taste you, to consume everything about you. You won't even leave a corpse behind as you're digested in its belly, perhaps even eaten alive. Maybe this monster will even eat your very immortal soul. Bone-shakingly horrifying. And it's also what quite a few yokai do. Even some of the more innocent-seeming ones are haunting you because they are hunting you.
So Kappa snatch and eat your soul through your butt, right?
Yeah.
What do you think a soul tastes like from that end?
Now, how do you show that someone or something wants to eat a person instead of just attack them? Easy. Give them a big, creepy tongue with which to taste you with. Make them lick their opponent to creep them out. Make them relish in the taste of fresh fear and fresh flesh. All of this association makes Big Spooky Tongue and the act of licking in combat inherently creepy, spooky, and triggering of the fight, flight, or freeze response, thus inducing paralysis. Okay, that one was good.
Now explain the rest.
The rest?
All you really did was explain the move's original intent, but these days it's not just spooky Pokemon that learn the move. Freaking Fido and the wise monkeys learn it.
Oh yeah, so I guess it's not just a creep or intimidation factor anymore. Though that does explain why all these Pokemon lines can learn it. They definitely do it for either the spooky or just the aggressive intimidation factor. And then these Pokemon kinda fit that. I mean, they are all animals that heavily use their tongues to eat, or they're a Snorlax. But the monkeys, Fido, and the Snubble lines, like, yeah, nice dogs do lick, like, a lot, like... But they don't do it in an intimidating, I am going to turn you into poop way. And monkeys, like, same. They lick things, but more so in an inquisitive way, like what human toddlers do. I will put this thing in my mouth to learn more about it. I have cholera now! Monkeys are mischievous, which falls in line with the many mischievous yokai, but I wouldn't think a playful, gross-out lick mid-battle would cause fear-based paralysis, you know? I've got a feeling that these, and really plenty of the other Mon who can learn the move, only got it because people kept asking why they don't. I mean, Lickitung didn't learn Lick originally. That's its whole deal! And dogs lick, snakes lick, anteaters lick, chameleons and frogs lick, and frogs, chameleons, and anteaters all have special saliva. It's incredibly sticky. None stickier than the anteaters. I mean, they gotta stick their 2-foot-long tongue up and into all these teeny tiny holes. And then lap up thousands of ants. And you can't just grab the ants with your handless tongue, so instead their tongues are extra sticky. The ants get stuck to it, and if some ants were to fall off on the tongue's way back in, like plenty do, they still can't really escape because they are covered in a glue-like saliva. And being stuck, unable to move, is really akin to being paralyzed. Really, for flavor, I think Game Freak could have separated Lick into 2 different moves. One spooky, one sticky. But if the end result is the same, It doesn't really need to be separated. At most, there could be a separate Lick attack that's just normal type, probably the one called Lick, and then I'd change the ghost type Lick into, like, Eldritch Lick or something. Heck, even just Taste has an intimidating insinuation to it.
Nut.
Okay, you get one more. Just one.
Nut.
I see that you're glaring at me. Turn that into some self-shilling.
What? Oh, yeah. Glare is also a weird move when you try to break it down, and you'd think a lot of Pokemon could learn it because, like, it's just a glare. But no, only a very select few, and you can learn why by watching this video next.
Nut. 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 Nut.
Am I annoying yet?